Entering the United States illegally does not create a right to remain here indefinitely. And I'm disgusted by my colleagues that fight so hard for the rights of people that have no business being here in the first place. Every single one of the names that I just mentioned deserve the chance to pursue the American dream. Every last one of them deserve to grow up and build a future and live in a country that is safe, secure, and governed simply by the rule of law. These tragedies were preventable, and when Democrat leaders refuse to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement, Americans bear the deadly consequences. Opening remarks talking about 10 million people that have entered this country illegally that we know of. I've heard 15, I've heard 20. I don't give a damn how many it is. It's one too many.
California, stop championing the criminals and let's start championing the victims.
Mr. Hunt.
Sheridan Gorman, Katie Abraham, Chloe Polzin, Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Moran, Megan Boss, Elizabeth Medina, Dakara Thompson, and many more. Say their names. Say their names. Sheridan, Katie, Chloe, Lincoln, Jocelyn, Rachel, Megan, Elizabeth, and Dakara. May you rest in peace. These are Americans. These are people's children, their family member, their friends. And every single one of the names that I just mentioned deserve the chance to pursue the American dream. Every last one of them deserve to grow up and build a future and live in a country that is safe, secure, and governed simply by the rule of law. The rule of law that I fought in combat to fight for every single American. Instead, these stories end in tragedy. These tragedies were preventable, and when Democrat leaders refuse to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement, Americans bear the deadly consequences. And I'm disgusted by my colleagues that fight so hard for the rights of people that have no business being here in the first place. This should not be a political debate. We are talking about real people, real families whose lives cannot be replaced ever again. Entering the United States illegally does not create a right to remain here indefinitely. For whatever reason, this is a political football. It's very cut and dry. This is very simple to someone like me. Let's consider this. This has already been stated, but in just 10 months, New York released nearly 7,000 aliens subject to ICE detainers. We are talking about crimes that include 29 murders, 2,500 assaults, 200 burglaries, 300 robberies, and hundreds of sexual assaults. And we are allowing these criminals and these animals back into our midst. Government's first responsibility is to protect our citizens. Anything less than that is a derelict of duty and a failure of leadership. And in this case, the intentional failure of leadership done by political purposes. Our chairman was speaking earlier during his opening remarks talking about 10 million people that have entered this country illegally that we know of. I've heard 15, I've heard 20. I don't give a damn how many it is. It's one too many. And especially people that come here and rape and maim our babies. This is what I get up and do this job every single day because I have babies too, and I see these pictures that are in front of me, and I weep for you because I see my babies in these photos, and it could have been one of mine as well.
This hearing captures one of the biggest divides in American politics. The debate isn't simply about immigration. It's about where responsibility begins when federal immigration law, state policies, and public safety collide. Both sides argue they're protecting Americans, but they fundamentally disagree on how to do it. One thing that stands out is how quickly this discussion moves beyond policy and into emotion. Rather than focusing only on legislation or statistics, lawmakers repeatedly center the conversation on victims and their families. That's a powerful strategy because it shifts the debate from abstract policy to real-world consequences, making every policy decision feel deeply personal. Supporters of sanctuary city policies often argue these policies encourage cooperation between immigrant communities and local law enforcement, making it easier to report crimes without fear of immigration consequences. Opponents counter that refusing to cooperate with federal immigration authorities can allow people accused or convicted of serious crimes to avoid removal. Those competing priorities are at the heart of nearly every sanctuary city debate. If you're enjoying this breakdown of today's hearing, subscribe to the channel. We cover the biggest moments from congressional hearings and explain the issues behind the headlines so you don't have to watch hours of testimony. Another important takeaway is how differently lawmakers frame the same issue. One side emphasizes individual tragedies as evidence that the current system is failing. The other often points to broader questions about constitutional authority, local control, and the effectiveness of different enforcement strategies. That's why these hearings rarely end with agreement. They begin from completely different assumptions about what the problem actually is. Whether you agree with the arguments made today or not, one thing is clear. Immigration remains one of the defining policy battles in Washington. The decisions made in Congress, in state capitals, and in local governments will continue to shape this debate for years to come. What do you think is the right balance between enforcing immigration laws and allowing local governments to set their own policies? Let me know in the comments below.
And if we don't do our jobs up here on Capitol Hill, we're going to have more pictures, we're going to have more murders, and we're going to have more rapes. This is the bottom line. This is not a partisan issue. Ms. Gorman, Mr. Abraham, I want to thank you so much for being here and offer you my deepest condolences. Thank you so much for being here. And ma'am, I know this has to be very difficult, but you're doing it in the name of your baby. And she's looking down on you, and she is very, very proud of you for doing this, I can assure you. Sheriff, thank you very much for being here as well. Last year, sir, you did a Fox News interview in which you mentioned that under the direction of Gavin Newsom, you received a threatening letter from the Attorney General of California because of your pledge to work with law enforcement. Is this true, sir?
Yes, sir, it is.
With my remaining time, sir, what would be your message to Governor Gavin Newsom and Democrat leaders across this country who persist with these homicidal sanctuary policies? And Sheriff, do you think that it is normal for the governor and attorney general of a state to tell a member of law enforcement to not cooperate with law enforcement?
No, I do not. It puts me in a very hard position, but once again, I will continue to do what I believe is right. And my message is really clear. In California, stop championing the criminals and let's start championing the victims, sir.
Amen. We're killing each other from within. That is how this country comes to an end, not from anybody from the outside, but because we allow 10 million people enter our country illegally, and then we make excuses for them after they murder our babies. That's insanity. And no other country operates like that. Neither should we. I yield back the remaining of my time, and thank you all so much, and I offer you my deepest condolences. Thank you all.
Gentleman's time has expired. Mr. Grothman.
Thank you. First of all, I want to clean up some of the things that have been said here in the past. When people talk about the number of crimes committed by people in this country illegally, and people claim that they are more law-abiding than the native-born here, the reason they can make that statement is nobody keeps track of the number of crimes who are committed by people here illegally, right? If I walk into a Wisconsin jail and ask the sheriff how many of these people are illegal immigrants, he has no clue. We've got a federal prison in Wisconsin, and I've toured the federal prison, and I asked the warden of the federal prison how many of these people here are in this prison are people who are illegally. He has no idea. So whenever you hear a politician say that people who are here illegally are committing less crimes than the native-born, they don't have a clue. The second thing I want to point out is, because they're lost in the debate, is the huge number of people who come here legally every year. And they try to set those of us up who want the current law enforced as being some mean people who won't let anybody in here. Right now, on a rolling average, every year, we have about 800,000 new people sworn in as new citizens. 800,000. If you look at that historically, it is high. When I was a child, that number was around 200,000. So we are right now letting in, legally, a very high number. Right now in this country, 1/6 of the people are foreign-born. We have never had so many people in our country foreign-born as we do now. That is more than even in the late 1800s when we had all the immigration from Eastern Europe and Germany and what have you. But for whatever reason, they don't talk about that. Now, if we do believe in immigration laws, we should remove the people who tried to sneak in here illegally. That, to me, is also obvious. And insofar, nobody knows exactly how many, insofar as President Biden let 8 million people in this country illegally, if we're going to have our laws mean anything, it means ICE and Border Patrol and whoever should remove those 8 million people. I don't know any serious person who believes we should only remove people who've committed a serious crime, right? If 8 million people came here illegally, 8 million people should be removed. Now, we've had a long hearing here, and we're having this hearing because of the horrific acts committed by people who are in this country illegally, and sometimes it's easy to forget the wonderful people whose lives were cut short by the zeal of what I think is the Democrat Party trying to change America as quickly as they can and letting everybody under the sun here. But in any event, we'll start with Mr. Abraham. Do you want to share with us a little bit of your daughter's history and what her dreams were so that whoever's listening today can see what life was cut short because of letting all these people in our country illegally?
Yeah, Katie was a special person for sure. She had this unique personality, drew everyone in, and always made people feel seen and heard. But I actually want to ask questions, actually Ms. Pierce and then the Congresswoman who kind of stepped away scaling. The inconsistencies I'm struggling with here. So they're complaining about children being exploited, but I didn't hear these voices from 21 to 25. Were you talking about that too? Because maybe I wasn't paying attention. So as wonderful as Katie was and how she got sacrificed by awful policy, she was sacrificed, there's no question about it. People knew a preventable outcome. This is part of the equation and calculation, okay? This is 100%, I believe. But it just seems to me strike the inconsistencies that, oh, we're so worried about now. I don't know, but you know, over the last 4 years, nothing, not a word from anybody. So I'm just confused, I guess.